Greetings, everybody. We are now again return to our Wondrous Lotus Sutra review. And it's wonderful because for 2 weeks, we have been off in terms of the Sutra review. But in the past 8 days, I think, we have had a very, very good return to the Sutra, and reminding us of all the joy that we had. But just wanted to go back to where we were before. So previously, for the past 2 weeks, we had shared about the current events, which were the 2017, the International Board Meeting. And we had shared how these stories from whether it's the US, the Philippines, Malaysia, or Southern African nations, these are all actually very tied in very much with the Sutra and the Buddhist teaching very much, and therefore it is almost an affirmation, and it's something that I think we should see as proof that this is indeed today's Dharma, today's Sutra, being spoken, being preached, being taught, and being acted on, being practiced by today's people. And these are the people that's really in front of us. These are not, for example, the names out of the book and out of the sutra. These are real people in flesh, in real flesh, that we can see and touch and we can talk to. And that's what the International Board Meeting is about. It's almost like it's a meeting of all the bodhisattvas from all the different places coming in, and they are all gathered together to share how they have practiced the Buddhist teachings or the Dharma or the real Lotus Sutra that is right in front of us. And for that, I think we're very grateful to have learned and hear the stories from all these 17 countries that had came back to share. I'm sure there are more, but in the very limited time that we had, we already saw that there is so much. And this all ties in very well with the theme that what is emptiness and what is existence? That even though we only have time I guess. Okay, so even though that we only have time for 17 countries to share, however, there is so much more. There's so much more than just what we. There's so much more than just what we have seen. Okay. All right. So I need to move on to the next page. Okay. All right. So for this week, we are now moving on to, once again, to the chapter 14, joyous and peaceful practices. So first thing that we do after we're off for about 2 weeks, we're going to do a brief review of what chapter 14 is about. And we're going to talk about the karmic cycles. That's the big topic in these few days. And also how to get it. And these are the very interesting things that I have gathered in the past week, the teachings from the past week, including today. If you were here in the live Xun Fa Xiang today, you will also be amazed with how much we don't know. And I think this is what I've been feeling all along, is the more that I hear, the more that I realize I don't know. But there's a big but, that what we can do about it is actually different. We can do something about it. So let's move on. Let's move on to this week's summary. First, let us review the chapter 14. And it's really a chapter about what to do and what not to do. It's really about, as a practitioner, what you should do and what you should not do. Who you should be friends with and who you should not be friends with. In what circumstances should you do something, and in what circumstances should you not do something, or you should not put yourself in those circumstances. And it goes for a long time. And I think this is the part where we go in and this is chapter 14, right? So this is after the chapters where we were talking about the different people who have already been predicted to attain the Buddhahood, right? And so now we're coming here, and the Buddha is trying to tell the disciples that in the future time there are going to be many, many, many difficult problems. Okay, there are going to be very, very many different challenges for all of us who are going to who had already made the vow and who are going to uphold the precepts and who are going to uphold the sutra and the teaching itself. And in the previous chapter, we have already heard that how difficult it's going to be. Then we have to put on the armor of forbearance, if we all have remember. Put on the armor of forbearance and always remember to endure. Endure, endure, endure. Okay, so that was a very philosophical, if you will, a very principle teaching about what we need to do. Okay, so in this chapter 14, we are now actually going to the very specifics. If chapter 13 is about what is about the direction, then chapter 14 is about the how. It tells you in chapter 13 that it's going to be very difficult. You must have forbearance. You must have compassion. You must endure all those that is very difficult, that will be very difficult to endure. Then chapter 14 tells you exactly what you need to do and exactly how you respond. So that's what this chapter is going to do. So I'm just going to briefly have snippets from the sutra itself. Recently, we have been talking about the people, the friends the people that we should be friends with, or the people that we should not be friends with. And these are some of the people that we should not be friends with. So for example, rulers, princes of kingdoms, high ministers, heads of offices, etc. And those people that are engaged in hazardous amusements, non-Buddhists and Brahmins. Okay, so the next page. Once again, there are a lot more things telling you who are the people we should be friends with and who are the people we should not be friends with. And it goes very much into specifics, It goes into, there are these people, they are not very nice. And there are these monks that violate the precept. And there are these people who are in names only. And they are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so these are very specific. This chapter so far, the first part is very specific about what can do and what cannot do. Then it goes into something very, very weird and very, very difficult to grasp. Why is it that it's so hard to grasp? Because it's like air. Are you really holding air? Are you really holding onto air? Once you make a fist, how much air is in your grasp? You don't know. And that's when we get into the emptiness. So I wanted everybody to orient it themselves again. Okay, so chapter 13, it talks of the difficulties and the challenges that will be faced by the people that will be upholding the sutras in the future, that it will be very difficult, that we have to endure. In chapter 14, it tells you how. It maps out the specific ways that we can do so that we can endure, so that we do not put ourselves in the difficult position, so that we can evade from all the difficulties by walking a very fine line of where to go, of what to do. And this fine line is mapped out by a very specific set of rules of who you should associate with and who you should talk to, or how you should act and what you should do in all these different situations. So this was very specific. If there were a treasure map, this would be it. It would be telling you, go west, 7 steps, go north, 5 steps, and then go east, 2 steps. Dig right here, there will be a box. And in the box, there will be, you guessed it, emptiness. Yes, that's right. So after we have heard all these things, it seems to be very, very clear instructions about what we should do. And all the things that we followed, then we dig up and then we found out it's all about emptiness. So let's move on to number 2 now. So now that we oriented ourselves into chapter 13 and 14. We know what this is about, but then it goes into this area about emptiness, about void, about infinite, about form and true emptiness and wondrous existence. It becomes very, very vague. It's not something that we can really grasp. So Master, a couple of days ago, did us a favor by trying to ground ourselves again, to put ourselves, to give us something that we can actually grasp, to give us something that we can actually take. And then she tells us a story. And this actually happened. This was a research done by Dr. Weiss. Dr. Weiss from Columbia. And what he had wrote a book. And what he said was this particular story that Master talked about, and even she referenced it again today and also yesterday, was that if you had a chance to go online to read about it, I think it would be wonderful, and you should. But the gist of the story is that this is an actual scientific and medical proof that reincarnation actually exists. And how do you prove that? How do you prove that? So this Dr. Weiss, actually what he did was, he usually does these medical trance or medical hypnotizing as a way to do some type of mental or psychological evaluation or psychological treatment. And while they are being hypnotized, while the patients have been hypnotized, they often refer back to a part of their memory, part of the memory that had nothing to do with their current lifetime, with their current life, but rather it is something that happened from long time ago. And in this case, it was actually a story that happened 2,000 years ago, when this particular person in 2,000 years ago was actually in Jerusalem. Now, usually you would not, if it were just me, and I cannot confirm nor deny whether this thing happened. We don't have a historian to prove that your story was true. So it could be something that you saw in the movies, and then you have it deep in your mind. So when you're hypnotized, you just recite the plot of the movie. However, what happened was that at the same time, there was another patient who recited a very, very similar story from 2,000 years ago in Jerusalem. However, it was in a different role. One person was at the same setting, but in the role of a father. The other person shared the same story, but from the perspective of a daughter. So it was a scene where the father died, was I think was some kind of death penalty or some kind of death treatment or something, that torture. But this father died in the arms of the crying daughter. Okay, so the same story was spoken by two people who seemingly do not know each other, have no connection whatsoever with each other, and they share the same similar memory except from different perspectives. And that led him to believe, I don't know if it proves substantially, but it led him to believe that reincarnation, that our lifetime, our soul, that this body was transient, that this body is only temporary. However, our soul will be carried on from lifetime to lifetime, and we have this memory within us that we remember what happened long ago, except it's dormant. Okay, so Master gave us this story so that we have something to grab onto. Oh, so this is what is there, right? On the one hand, there is our body, which is finite. It has a finite lifespan. It has very limited form, and it's very limited shape. However, what's in here, in the very finite form and shape in our brain, resides not just the memories, but also the principles, the wisdoms, all these ideas that is out of emptiness. And so she tried to give us something that is very simpler for us to grasp. And so she shared this. She shared with us this story about this karmic cycle. And furthermore, To expound further on the karma cycle, Master actually used the ideas of the seed and the tree. The seed and the tree, and how the seed will grow to become a tree. And the tree eventually will beget more seeds. And even though the seed and the tree will eventually die away, but what's left, what continued on, is the things that you cannot see, or the DNA, or the DNA mappings that the new seeds will have coming from the tree. And this is all trying to tell us that in chapter 14, when we talk about all the do's and don'ts, these are very finite. These are like what you see in our shape and form, very finite. I'm telling you, you cannot be with the kings, high ministers, prince, and all these other people. And you should not be alone with a woman when you're preaching. When you're preaching the Dharma, you should have another monk with you, etc., etc., etc. All of that are very finite. It tells you exactly, go west 10 steps, go north 7 steps, and go east 3 steps, and you'll find the treasure. Okay, so it's all very specific. However, what is not specific and what is really the void and the emptiness, the true emptiness of that, is the actual wisdom itself, the actual understanding of itself that's really behind it. So, we actually, Master actually went in more to talk about this karmic cycle, that this cycle of cause and condition, the effect and consequences, with which I actually did a much more in-depth sharing before about the cause and condition and how they're interlinked together, that they are actually cause, and the cause itself without the conditions will not have any effect. However, Master went further and say, even though the cause and the condition combine together, it is still not enough, because you still have to seize that moment. You still have to be willing that when there's a seed, when all this, the soil, the water, the sun, the nutrients, everything is there, you still have to seize that moment, seize that opportunity. For if you do not seize that opportunity, that fleeting moment, then there will still be no effect. Then there will be no lasting effect. And that is most important. Reason. Another way to say it is, yes, you have the seed, you have the soil, you have the nutrients, you have the sun, and you have the water. So naturally you would ask, of course then, it will grow, right? Absolutely, you're absolutely right. But do not discount the importance of time. Suppose I put the seed in Ecuador in April of this year. There is ample sunlight, there is water, and there is soil. So the seed will grow, yes. But you put it down in Ecuador in April, when there's a huge flood happening, yes, it will grow. But eventually the flood comes and wipe everything away. Then it will all go back to empty. So Master is talking about, in the past, we have always been talking about, as long as there is cause, as long as there is condition, then it will ripe. Master is saying, no, not just that, but you have to seize the right moment to do so. And the moment is when everything is going to be okay. You put, like, for example, you grow the crops in the spring. You grow the crops in the spring, and that is seizing the moment, because you know before the typhoon comes, before the hurricane comes, it will have enough roots to hold on to the soil, so the soil will not be washed away, and the tree or the plant will not be blown away. And that is talking about seizing the moment. And I think that is something more than what we have learned before. Master is telling us it's not enough for there to be cause and effect, cause and condition. For there to be an effect and consequence, we must also seize every moment. Seize that moment, that fleeting moment. When the moment is right and is ripe, we should do it. Okay, so that's the part that I felt that was important on message. That was part of this week's presentation and part of this week's lecture. And lastly, how to get it. And this is the part that very much with today's Dharma talk. If we go on to the next page, you will understand what I meant by how to get it. In the sutra, there was a segment. So in the Chinese, it's really just something that it's really hard to understand. All that it says was that do not try to comprehend and to grab this phenomenon or the principles for that, or do not try to understand or see them. These are what I call the practices of the Bodhisattva. Now, when I read this, I do not understand, what are you trying to say? And Master, in that day's morning Dharma talk, went a little bit further about what does that mean to try to not to comprehend it, to try not to understand, to try not to see it. So Master said that if you know that you are talking, if you know that you are breathing, then there's inherently something wrong with the way you're breathing, or with the way that you have to exert a lot of effort to talk. What they're trying to say is, Dharma, it's formless, it's shapeless, it's void, it's everywhere. So you cannot try to grab onto it and say, now I have it, now I understand it. Because the moment you say, I have it and I understand it, then you are really not understanding it and you're not really having it. Rather, it's about part of you. When it becomes so naturally ingrained, imprinted in you, that just like breathing, when you are breathing, you don't realize you're breathing. That is how natural it has become to you. That is the Dharma that's already in you. That is the true Dharma that's already in you. So do not try to forcefully get it and say, let me tell everybody now, from this moment on until 7:30, I am telling you Dharma. No, but rather, how does it encompass into all the things that we are doing, into itself and seep into it? That is why in Chinese we call it 熏法香. It's the Dharma, the aura, the incense of this aura of this Dharma is permeating. It's not blowing at you. It's permeating slowly, seeping into you. So in this part, it's trying to tell you the practices of the Bodhisattva is not to actively and say, I am practicing Dharma. I am practicing all these principles. No, it's not. In fact, Master, today's Dharma talk was very, very specific and very clear in explaining that how do we get rid of all the afflictions? It's by coming into the world, seeing other people when they are troubled and confronted with afflictions. Then because we are on the third person point of view, we are clear and it's easier for us to see the problems. And from there, understand the problem and then be able to resolve the problem. Yes, problems we can comprehend, we can resolve because it's really concrete. However, the wisdom that you get, it's not like, okay, Joe, let me apply my wisdom and tell you the answer. No, it's not like that. It's rather what's already in you. So the sutra tells you the true practices of the Bodhisattva isn't to put Dharma on his mouth and say, let's do this, Dharma now. And then later on, you turn it off and say, no Dharma. No, it's not a switch you can turn on or off. It's something that seeps into you. So how do we do that? By letting the aura permeate through and into us. By always be in the same vicinity of the Dharma so that it will seep into you. And eventually you will have that. So it's not something that we have to grab. It's not something for us to see. It's not something for us to understand. It's formless. It's actually speechless. So what am I trying to tell you so much about it? Well, I'm trying to tell you what it means from the sutra, the text. Okay, so next sentence, next verse, all phenomena are empty, without being, without any constant abiding, without arising or extinction. This I call the position the wise person associate himself with. Once again, what is a wise person? It's not talking about the Dharma is right there with the wise person. It's not about now there is Dharma, now there isn't. It's not about now it's here and now it's not here. No, it's actually always there, or it's not there. So what does that mean? If you have it, if you have this Dharma, if you have this wisdom, it's already in you. If you don't have it, it's not because you don't have it. It's there. It's just being covered up by more affliction. So how do we get rid of the affliction? That's the most important. So very quickly, moving on to the lastly part. And I wanted to do a summarize because it still seems to be very void, very empty. And so let's go back. Let's go back clearly. Okay, let's go back to chapter 13 and chapter 14. 13 tells you there are a lot of challenges. 13 tells you that you have to endure. 14 tells you that these are the things you should do. Yet there are these something that you can, whatever things that you can put your hands on, the rules have already been written. However, there are more things than just words can say. There are more rules than what was written. So what were they? How are they? How can the Buddha explain something that no words can explain? He had already done his very best by writing down in words, in specific verses, what you can and what you cannot do. Those are the easy part. But what about the parts that he cannot express in words? How is he going to pass this teaching? How is he going to pass this teaching to all the disciples in the future when you can't pass the words? Because the only thing that's passed in between the teacher and the disciples are the sutras, right? Wrong. Remember the karmic cycle. Remember the forms and what comes in here that's formless. We understand it. And I think for some of you sitting there, for me, for many of us, maybe at first we don't see it. Maybe at first we don't feel it. Maybe at first we don't understand it. But let me tell you, I believe that it's really in here. It's already in here. It's already in us. Just like the story of 2,000 years ago, the father and the daughter, it was there. It was waiting for the right moment to be inspired, to be uncovered, to have somebody that says, let me hypnotize you and let me bring that out from you. It's already there. So what Master has been trying to tell us is, yes, you can tell us all the very definitive words about what to do and what not to do. The last part that is the hardest to talk about, the hardest to be conveyed by words, I will not use any words to try to uncover that. Rather, it will have to be uncovered by emotion, by something that you cannot see, by something that you have to truly feel, by something that when you do, you will understand. And these are not something that's by any words, by any writing. And that is what is most important. So always practice. That is why if you follow this path, you do what's written down, and you try to do all the teachings, and you feel it with your heart, then you will understand what that true teaching was. So lastly, I want to go back to chapter 10. Back in chapter 10, the teachers of the Dharma, we have already talked about the 3 tracks. The 3 tracks were, and these were the rough translations, the great compassion, that the room that we're in is adorned, is completely filled with great compassion. The gentleness and forbearance that are the robes that we put on ourselves. And the emptiness are the seat that we sit on. And then from that position, one should expound the law. So let's go back to what this is trying to say, right? In chapter 14. It tells you the things you need to do. If you go back to the verses, you would probably be able to see that there are also parts. There are also parts that that talks about if people coming with their true feeling of wanting to learn the Dharma, that we should have the compassion to teach it to them, to share with them. So there's talk of compassion. There's talk of there's talk of helping people with their afflictions. And of course, there's endurance, there's forbearance, following the rules. And we have to put on the robe of forbearance. And the emptiness also were very evident in chapter 14. Emptiness, the void, the Dharma isn't really there. It's everywhere, but it's nowhere. Okay, that's the C. And the last part I want to share with you is from that position, one should expound the law. From that position, that's the position of the wise. The seat is emptiness. That's the base and that's the foundation. The base and the foundation, of all the law is actually emptiness. And that is what Master said today, that how else will you have any principle? Where would you have the seed and the earth and the water and the sunlight if you don't have this space? Without this emptiness, without this space, where would form and shapes be at? You need a space. You need the emptiness so the space, so the forms and shapes can take hold. So that's the seat, the foundation. And so I think not only in the world that we can see, but also in Dharma, the foundation and the position that we should start to explain, to understand the law is also based off this emptiness, this void. When our heart is empty, it's ready to receive more teaching. Master told us to go into the people, to see their troubles, to find their affliction, and see how we can get rid of it. To seize that moment. What is that moment? The moment that our wisdom gains from seeing and helping others get through their troubles. That's really the wisdom that we can say we have uncovered. But for all the other ones, for all the other knowledge and wisdom that's out there, for example, how heavy, how much weight is the Mount Sumeru, okay? Or how many water drops are there in the ocean? These are the answers that we don't know. And I'm sure there are a lot more things that we don't know. But what we know are the part that we have uncovered. So little by little, every step that we take is going to be very solid, very firm, because for everything that we know, we're going to continue. And so that is my sharing for today. And thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. And it's getting a little bit out there, but I don't want. But I hope that everybody, we can actually continue and try to feel and try to see, try to feel it. It's not something for us to understand. It's something for us to feel. And when you understand it, you will understand it. And it is my hope that we have to. That's why Master always says, be mindful, because it's only through mindfulness that we are able to, at that moment, to contemplate and think deeply about each action and about each thought. So thank you. That's my sharing for today. And now we will now give the floor to the center that's going to do the sharing. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Today we have two volunteers who are going to share with us what they have learned. And one of the first sharers will be Lian Xi. And let's spell Lian Xi, or maybe it's the other way around. Okay. And I'll pass the mic to her so that we won't waste time and listen to her sharing. Thank you.
Good morning, masters, and good morning to all the brothers and sisters around the globe. Today I'd like to share about myself, and I have joined Xin Fa Xiang for English group for the past 5 months. I'm still at very infant stage. What I would like to share is a couple of weeks ago that I met a stranger and whereby I trusted a stranger too fast, you see. And why I trusted this person is because he has set up the whole, what you call that, the situation looks so genuine to me, whereby I have totally didn't know that it's actually a setup and has cheated some money from me. And I find that the money is not so crucial, whereby we can earn it back. The main thing is I actually learned a big lesson in life, which I find that in the mall, in fact, a lot of times that I just leave one of my daughter in a playroom, and I will go another place to get what I have to do, what I need to buy and things to be done. And this time around, I find that the main thing that I learned a lesson is I will never leave my kids behind, without my own attention. If I can get cheated, what about my young kid, And I noticed that in the playroom, anyone can actually came by and pick up the kid. The moment when I got cheated that day, I went home. I didn't feel about the money that I lost. I just felt so badly that I did something so wrong and I took so high risk, by putting my kid in the playroom. I trusted them so well. With that, actually, if before I joined Tzu Chi, my mind will definitely be different, that I will talk to a lot of people that I got cheated with this amount of money, rather than reflect what I have done wrong. Honestly, after joining Tzu Chi, I've spoken to so many brothers and sisters, and I've read so many masters' books. My wisdom, I have gained a lot of wisdom, and I found that it is something to learn. Whatever happened, it must be telling me that I have to learn something in life. The difference before I joined Tzu Chi is joining Tzu Chi is definitely very huge different. What my mind, how to say, how I think and how I judge things, And I'm very grateful that I'm still alive, and money I can earn back, which have to be mindful that not to trust people so easily. Yeah, this is what I want to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Lianxi. So we will have another sharer. So Lianxi, we also learned a lot from you today. Thank you. Okay, the other sister is Sister Yan Ping. If you can see this, Sister Yan Ping is also a new volunteer. Can I get her to come? Okay, all yours, Sister Yan Ping.
Good morning, brothers and sisters, wherever you are.感恩 Sister Michelle for inviting me to share what I have experienced and I learned after attending few times of Sim Fa Xiang. When I first time attend Sim Fa Xiang, I felt very quite disappointed actually. Because I didn't feel interested in the topic that shared by brothers in Hualien's, which is back in December last year. I think because that time is that the setup or the line was very weak, and I didn't really hear and get the points that the brothers was sharing at times. Okay, to me, because time is very important, and I dislike to waste times to do or attend things that I don't really gain. So I always have expectation, and perhaps that is one of my weaknesses. Okay, what made me to attend second, third, and so on, as I told myself, as I have to give chance to others to share, as I may be expected by others to do the same thing one day. So like what others, brothers, sisters did in Tzu Chi or in this big family. So after a few times of attend the Xin Fa Xiang, I slowly pick up the points that share and I digest them, apply them in my daily life or activity. I learn how to be more patient, mindful when I act or when I speak. Okay, I'm willing to let go and try not to attach things that come to me. So when I face challenges or incidents that happen to me, I am able to handle them calm and apply Dharma, because I think it's a progress, and throughout the way, I believe my wisdom is growing day by day. So I still remember is that mindfulness is knowing the principle of Dharma is the mind. Okay. As I believe that thing happens for a reason, also called karmic cycle. So after a few months or 3 months, I can see myself live more happily, and through although there are still challenges and sad things happen to me one by one since 1 year ago. So, I always keep in my mind what Master mentioned, do whatever is right. I follow and practice Dharma in my daily activities. It's now become my habits. I know that I'll be more diligent and continue to cultivate my path through Tzu Chi. That is all I wanted to share today. Everyone.
Thank you very much, Sister Yamping. And so glad that Sister has come back and joined us back. And of course, there are many people, if you can see from the screen, there are many brothers and sisters who have been accompanying Sister Yamping and mentors, etc. So thank you all, teachers, and back to Hualien. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sister Yamping, and also Lian Xing. I think, first of all, Michelle, that was a wonderful idea to have the name cards, okay? Because really, I wouldn't, it would be very difficult for me to hear and be able to memorize the name. But it is true that people can memorize images much better than memorizing the sound. And I think that's what Master also is trying to share with us, is that she always tries to use something that we can relate to so that we can actually understand it better. If it's something that is graphical, like it makes us think, like, for example, we would never know how in the story, the father and the daughter 2,000 years ago, how it would look like. But you could almost visualize. You could almost visualize in your mind how a father would die in the arms of a crying daughter. You could visualize that, and so that's I think that's the way that Master had been trying to teach us. But so I wanted to reply to Sister Yamping. First of all, thank you for continuing to try, and I think like you said. Just like what Master said, it's about doing. It's about doing whatever that's right. If it's the right thing, then we should do it. Okay. But there's more than that. You said so at the end, mindfulness. If we just do, even though it's the right thing, however, the more important part is the process. It's not that this thing gets done. It's that in the process of doing what's right, you have to overcome some challenges, and the mindfulness allows you to observe your own growth, to see that you have changed, to see the very small differences. And that's what I was talking about when the Dharma seeps into you, permeates into you. This change is not overnight. And that's what Master also had been talking about. A lot of these changes are not just something that's overnight and you wake up, you just get it. It comes very slowly and it goes, eventually seeps into you. And I think it is through these meetings. And I am not saying that anybody here has the wisdom like the Buddha or the Master to be able to uncover that. But the more that we're in this group, the more that we're in the like-minded people, and together we're sharing, there is bound to be some effect where the dust that was covering our true suchness will be blown off a little bit more at a time. And you might not feel it, but each grain of sand is slowly being lifted more and more and more. And now all of a sudden, we're becoming more patient. We're becoming nicer. We're becoming good friends, virtuous friends to other people. And that's going to take time. And the most important thing is don't give up. Whether it's this particular sharing or other sharings with other Dharma brothers and sisters, that's all fine. The most important thing is in the process that we will have grown. And you cannot measure it by noticeable or substantial steps, but through time, it will accumulate. But if it's this time versus today versus yesterday, have you grown because of what we said today? Probably not, or probably not enough to be noticed. But once again, this is Dharma. It's void, it's empty. You're not supposed to be able to grab it and say, this is how much I grew by. No, it's gonna seep in, and it's gonna have to wait for the right karma. And to reply to Sister Lianxi, I wanted to say I'm sorry to hear that it was a very difficult experience to feel that way, to be led into believe something and then realizing that it was not true. And as you mentioned, this is exactly this cause and effect, right? So the most important part isn't what happened at the end, is when you found out that this thing happens and you apply your learning and understanding about cause and consequences, that everything was right. The cause was there, the conditions were there, and the effect were that you were fooled or you were led to believe in something. The consequence is the most important, in that how are you going to deal with it? Are you going to be now distrustful, hateful, vengeful, and about humanity, about the lack of humanity, about the person that did this to you? Are you going to be like that? Or are you going to say, well, this is cause. There had been something that was probably planted before. How can I do to resolve it? I do not want to be entangled with this further. Therefore, let's try to entangle. And it's easy for us, for the other people, third party, to say that. But the person that grew up the most will be you. Not only through the benefit of the effect, but it's the process of applying what you have learned. So I'm grateful that you share with us this story and also how you have applied this. And I'm also very hopeful that in the future, when more problems happen, you will also be able to have the wisdom, and most important of all, have the courage to be able to apply what you learn and continue your journey. So thank you both today for the sharing and wonderful idea about the name card. That was just something that's very thoughtful. So thanks to the two sisters that shared today. And now I'll pass back to Hua Lian, who will now share with us the QA session. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Joe. Thank you to Sister Lianxi, Sister Yam-Ting for the sharing. Thank you so much. And okay, so we'll go to the Q&A. So for question 1, it's asking, why is it so difficult to recruit our family members and friends to join Tzu Chi? Though they fully understand Tzu Chi's philosophy, I think we all have, at least personally for my own family, we also have this kind of situation. In fact, I have observed quite a few Tzu Chi family around me, and then many of them have, there's always the father and mother very diligent in Tzu Chi, and then the kids, maybe 3 of them, 2 of them, 1 of them will be very diligent, but there will always be somehow there'll always be that one person that just doesn't want to come in, and like like for my own family, my younger brother just doesn't want to come in, and then kind of like just doesn't like. But and then there are a few ways to think about this, and sometimes I reflect upon it on myself too. That I think that there's a few ways to think about it. One is I think at least for my brother also, exactly because he knows what Tzu Chi's philosophy is, and I think he understands it very well. He agrees with it too, but at least for myself, I didn't reach that level. Or, for example, my father and mother still quarrels at home. They can be very good outside in Tzu Chi, but at home they still quarrel. So this kind of thing is at home is the place where, as we very often let our guard, not as in, we let our precepts down. We make ourselves feel very at ease in a bad way. No, we let go of all our precepts. We let go of guarding our heart. We let go of checking our own behaviors when we are at home. We think that at home we can just relax and do whatever we want. But in that kind of relaxed state, we also open our heart to our desires and all our own actions, and we just let our guard down, and then let our heart go off or go haywire at home. But when we are outside, we wear the Tzu Chi uniform. We always check out our own behaviors. We always check what we say. We always check our emotions. When we're outside, we're interacting with all our brothers and sisters. We feel that, hey, we are pretty okay. And brothers and sisters will think that, oh, we are pretty okay. But at home, very often, we let our heart go. And then just do it. So our family member is the person that witnessed our other side, or the side of us that was unguarded. So actually that is also why I think that's also why they know the philosophy, but because we didn't put it into our own actions all the time. We didn't put it into our own actions at home and outside, not all the time. We didn't really internalize it until that we have transformed already, that all the time we are acting the same way, in the right way. So there will be something that I reflect on myself too, and then always checking on myself that no matter whether I'm wearing uniform or not, I should always do it the same way. I think that's one thing also. But at the same time, another thought that I have is I never really worry about my brother. I never really worry that he will go to the wrong direction or wrong way. At least from what I observed, he's a very diligent in his own path. He's very he knows what he wanted to do. He knows his direction in life, and he also does good things. He helps his friends. He a nice person too. It's just that he's not in Tzu Chi, but he's nice in some other places. So in that way, I think we at least I also think that Tzu Chi is not that doing Tzu Chi is the only good things to do. No, our family members, they can also do the good things. They can also learn good things in other places, and live out their life in a good way in other places too, in the same direction. So at least for myself, I will look at Tzu Chi in the formless way. That Tzu Chi it's not just doing Tzu Chi, then it's doing Tzu Chi. But you can do Tzu Chi at home. You can do Tzu Chi in the formless way. Ideology, the spirit of Tzu Chi, it's the same. Whether you are working in another charity or working in another religion, if the spirit is the same, then I would take it that he's also doing Tzu Chi, or it's all the same. That the spirit is the same. So so I don't worry for my brother, because I think he's in the right direction too. So it is in that way I also open up my own heart to see the goodness in all the other person, whether he's doing Tzu Chi or not, and I share what I learned in Tzu Chi, and they share what they have done in other places, and in a good way too. And in both ways, we all learn. So I think in that way, our heart is very open as well. So that's my thoughts for question 1. Okay, and then now we can go to question 2. Or question 4 first. Okay, question 4 first.
Hello, brothers and sisters. Just let us see the question first. We constantly attend Dharma teaching and practicing at dawn, diligently writing notes and considered ourselves having fruitful gain. However, during city activities, we are still not working in perfect harmony with other and do not agree with other person methods. When we're doing introspection of ourselves, we felt ashamed and guilty. Why are these still happening? So, first of all, I totally agree with you. We listen to Dharma teaching and it seems that we understand what we should do. But when we are participating in city activities or while interacting with our family, when things do not go our way, we get bad temper, out of patience, and bad attitude, etc. After that, we will feel guilty and make promise to ourselves that we won't do it again. And when the same things happen again and again, it will happen again. So in my own experience, I was really a bad temper person. I wanted to make a change to be a better person, but I could not control myself. Could not control my heart actually. Then I bought a lot of Buddhist books. I read it while I was, when I feel ashamed or after I lost my temper. So one day I finally realized that it won't work because I just read the books and did not put it into my action. It seems that we enjoy listening to Dharma teaching. We keep it as a guidebook to ourselves and to our life. And we believe it will help us to overcome all the difficulties. But we forget to use it, or we did not want to use it. We just do what we want to do, say we want to say emotionally. Maybe it's time for us to check how many guidebooks we have. Are they all being forgotten and stay in the bookshelves for a long time, full of dust and dirt? Lastly, when we're doing introspection of ourselves, if we felt ashamed and guilty again and again, I don't think it is a bad thing because no pain, no gain. Just keep trying in a positive way and follow what Master teaches us. So believe in yourself. And it's my sharing for this answer, for this question. Thank you for listening. So we go to question 2. Yeah. 没关系哦，你没有电脑，赶快。你要去你的吗？那我这里要关吗？可以吗？可以啊。Okay. Good morning, brothers and sisters. I'm going to share the question 2. And performing these but not expecting or wanting for returns, would it be contradict if doing transfer or marriage or becoming wanting for returns? I think everything, no matter we do or we cultivate, I think is completely depends on how to set your mind. So as long as your mind is not set for you want to get a lot of return for yourself, I think the mind is very broad and is for the sentient being, not for yourself benefit. Just like whenever we're doing any kind of ceremony, we recite the Sutra or we do the any kind of ceremony that at the end, we still will recite the transfer merit, the sentence. But you can read through these 4 sentences. The mind and is broad. It's not for anyone, him or herself. Is for the universe, sentient being, for the whole universe. So I think the mind we said is to sharing the blessing, is not just want to gain any kind of benefit for self.
So just like I think these few days for the morning talk, Master sharing a lot of like emptiness, and like when we do good deeds, that we should not set our mind that you do this on purpose because you want to get some return. Then that's a very narrow mind. So you should not set your mind. You're just doing this for sentient being. You want to everybody through your help then get a benefit to relieve their suffering. So our mind should be set on emptiness. But emptiness doesn't mean there's nothing. So even though you didn't expect gain anything, but through this transfer merit, no matter what, the virtues still will back to yourself. This, I think, I will define by myself. This is wondrous existence. So I think the for this, I will sharing this kind of thoughts of myself to you for this question. It will not be contradict as long as our mind is you set to that you want to do all the good, sharing all the blessing and do all the good to help for the whole sentient being. I think our mind is emptiness, but is wondrous existence. Thank you so much. And I think number 3 is for Master Shen. Shen Sifu will share next week. Then back to Brother Joe.
Okay. So I think that's going to wrap up, right? So Huadian, is there any more?
No.
Okay. So that's another week, and I hope that in the coming week we will continue to learn and also to practice on this path together. Without you guys, without virtuous friends, without friends to accompany this path, it will be very difficult. And so no matter where you are, know that you have friends in all of us, and know that you have companions in all of us, and know that you are not alone, and know that we don't really know anything, but we're gonna continue. Okay, we don't know enough, but that's enough to know for now that we don't know enough. So let's continue, and we will work hard, and see you all next week. Bye-bye.